Please smash the bell icon to be notified of new content. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thanks for watching.
Learned about the police raid into her daughter's home. Tamika Palmer says in this interview that she actually got a call from Breanna's boyfriend, Kenny, seconds after the fatal shooting.
I could hear Kenny just like screaming and crying and I could hear all this noise, but I'm not knowing what this noise was. Like I didn't, and I'm like, what is going on, Kenny? And he's like, I think Breanna is, he said, somebody was trying to break in here and I think they shot Breanna.
This interview, conducted with Palmer in Louisville by news organization TMX and given to WHS 11 News Tonight. The 26-year-old Taylor was shot and killed on March 13th at her South Louisville home, where her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, was also living. After the shooting, LMPD investigators said officers were serving a warrant in a narcotics investigation. But in a new lawsuit filed against 3 LMPD officers, Taylor's family says they were looking for Taylor's ex-boyfriend and had actually arrested him
having a no-knock search warrant, even though they lied and said they
Breanna's
knocked.
attorney says police failed to communicate. They lied. Her family says there were never any drugs in her home.
No-knock search warrant should never be allowed.
Like, how can you say there's drugs in this house? I live there firsthand. I know this. I live there. We're here 24/7. No, there's no drugs.
And he's trying to
when you go in and you look at this house, they were shooting from outside the house.
Documents are showing a suspected drug dealer police were looking for the night officers shot Taylor made, quote, frequent trips to her home. Tonight, Gabrigagadis has that, plus new comments from the family's nationally known attorney.
In January, police believed a suspected drug dealer, Jamarcus Glover, was using Breanna Taylor's apartment to ship drugs to avoid detection. The search warrant states Glover and second suspect, Adrian Walker, used this vehicle to travel to and from a trap house on Elliott Avenue, more than 10 miles from Taylor's apartment on Springfield Drive. In one instance, detectives said Glover was seen picking up a package from Taylor's home and then taking it to another known drug house. He was charged the same morning Taylor was killed. In March, a judge signed a no-knock entry so police could enter the EMT's home for a narcotics investigation without having to identify themselves. But LMPD says detectives knocked several times and announced their presence. Taylor's attorneys, which include National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump, have 4 witnesses who plan to prove them wrong.
They did not identify themselves,
the cops involved should be held accountable.
Kenny Walker right now, his case is so important too because he got charged with attempted murder of a police officer.
Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, allegedly shot one of the officers in self-defense. Though he was arrested and charged, records show a judge released him on home incarceration. Wednesday, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher said the Commonwealth's attorney would be recusing himself in Taylor's case because he's prosecuting Kenneth Walker.
Our expectations and hope and intentions with this case are to shed light on what is a very corrupt police department that has been able, through self-policing and investigating itself, to get away with these kinds of things too often in the past.
LMPD won't comment on pending litigation. Sanay Gabrigagadis, WHS 11 News.
To Kentucky, where we're seeing photos of Breanna Taylor's apartment following the deadly police encounter for the very first time. Now, these photos, released by Taylor's family lawyer, show the damage caused by the police after they entered the apartment with a search warrant and fired more than 20 rounds on March 13th. Taylor was hit at least 8 times. After gaining national attention, the case will be handed over to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office once the local investigation is complete. So Tessa Duvall has been reporting extensively on this fatal shooting. She's a reporter for the Courier-Journal in Louisville. Thank you so much for joining us, Tessa. So we're learning more information about what happened that night, and we're seeing these photos. Are the photos giving us any additional information about why things went so badly?
Absolutely. These photos are showing just the extent of damage that took place in her apartment. And so what we've learned, through court documents, through a lawsuit, through Breanna Taylor's family attorneys, is that officers fired from multiple locations. And so with these photos, we are able to tell, really the extent of the damage in her home. I mean, in her kitchen, in her bathroom, in bedrooms, the patio door, sliding glass patio door into her apartment. You can tell there are bullet holes through the curtains that were drawn and the glass is shattered. And so that really backs up one of the large claims made in this lawsuit, is that officers were firing from multiple locations and perhaps did not have a line of sight when they were shooting.
We also know that the judge issued a no-knock warrant. What does that mean? Why is that a critical step in this case?
Absolutely. So that is one of the really contentious points about.
You never hear about no-knock search warrants being issued in places like Beverly Hills
there was the one
or
for her
rich
apartment,
neighborhoods,
which had her
only
name
in
and two
black
other
urban
individuals
neighborhoods.
on it. And then there was a second warrant for a home about 10 miles away. They were executed at about the same time. This was in relation to a narcotics investigation, and police believed that they had seen one of the suspects who has a history of drug offenses at her apartment picking up a box. Breanna had dated this individual a couple of years ago.
And as I stated before,
so based on,
the judge, the prosecutor, and all of the officers involved should be held accountable. They should have done their due diligence before they ran up in there guns blazing.
For both of these locations. So this is a huge sticking point because, Kenneth Walker, who's Breanna Taylor's boyfriend, was at home with her, said that he did not hear a knock, as well as neighbors, multiple neighbors who Breanna Taylor's family attorneys have talked to, also said they didn't hear knocking. And so this is really significant because if Kenneth Walker did not hear a knock and believed that his home, or his girlfriend's home where he was staying was being broken into, that gives significant context as to why he fired a shot. He does not deny that
this search warrant took place after midnight, so they clearly wanted to surprise the element of surprise. They didn't knock.
So now he is being charged with attempted murder of a police officer because he fired the shot, and one of the officers was hit in the leg and had to undergo surgery. And so he's facing these very serious charges, and Breanna Taylor's family and attorneys feel very seriously that part of getting justice in this situation is seeing those charges dropped against him.
And Tessa, I feel like we got to take maybe a little bit of step
back.
What a
coincidence!
I feel like a lot of people.
None of the cops are wearing body cams.
Heard about the story, or just starting to hear about the story. Breanna was in her apartment at the time when this no-knock warrant was issued and officers came in. She was sleeping on the couch, right? She had absolutely no idea what was happening.
Right. So Breanna Taylor and her boyfriend Kenneth Walker were in bed, according to statements made by her attorney. They had already gone to bed for the evening. It's important to know that this warrant was served around 12:40 a.m. So, the fact that they were in bed is very likely. So, from what they're saying is from Kenneth Walker's perspective, this is the middle of the night. Someone's banging on their door. He says that police did not identify themselves. And important thing to note here is that police are saying that officers identified themselves and only used a battering ram after no one answered the door. But the warrant that was signed off on was a no-knock warrant.
And Tessa, you spoke with both the attorney, Ben Crump, and Breanna Taylor's mother. We've seen Attorney Crump give interviews before, but I'm really interested in what Breanna Taylor's mother had to tell you.
Of course, she's devastated by this. That was her daughter who was working in healthcare at this crucial time, during a pandemic. She said her daughter had big plans for her future, that she wanted to buy a house and she really wanted to become a registered nurse. And those were goals that she was working toward. She wanted to start a family, and she was a really big family person. Her family was really important to her, and she was really tight with her friends. And, one thing that her mother said to me was, I don't think they know what they took from us. So, really, this is a huge loss for them and their family. And I think,
it's sad that we have to protest for justice.
They've wondered.
We really need to get justice for Breanna Taylor.
So, That's where we see, Attorney Ben Crump come in. He's got experience with a lot of these really high-profile cases involving the really controversial deaths of Black Americans, especially when police are involved.
Tessa, before we let you go, I got to ask you about the top prosecutor. That person has recused themselves from this case. What's going on with that?
So what we've learned is that the Commonwealth attorney in this case, who would normally review the case after the police are done with their investigation, has decided to recuse himself because he is choosing to, or rather he is prosecuting Kenneth Walker, the boyfriend, for this attempted murder of a police officer charge. So now the Attorney General's office will review this, decide if any criminal charges need to be brought, and U.S. Attorney's office and the local FBI office will also review the case.
All right, Tessa Duvall, thank you so much for your reporting. Really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us.